Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. How many of you have turned to technology, especially artificial intelligence, also known as AI, to make your lives at work easier? Now, you can brand a company, you can write copy, create advertisements with just a few strokes on your keyboard. But how do you know whether the images or the content that you've created are safe to use? And does your company use AI chatbots on websites? And how do you limit risk if you're using AI? To help us navigate through the legal ramifications of artificial intelligence, I'm joined by Stephanie Vaccari, an intellectual property lawyer and partner at Baker McKenzie LLP. Stephanie, welcome to Empowered. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
This is really important. So I want to begin with, we're going to talk about the intellectual property and AI considerations associated with marketing and advertising collateral. And it appears to be a very hot topic right now, especially in relation to generative AI. Marketing and advertising, which I know really well, are important to businesses to build brand awareness. They drive profit and growth, they acquire more customers, et cetera, et cetera. But as a first step, I want to focus on building brand awareness. Now, you're an intellectual property lawyer. What is intellectual property and how can it protect brands?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you that this area is keeping me very busy because it's amazing, how people are relying on artificial intelligence, but yet do not appreciate the ramifications. So, with respect to intellectual property, first, there is a whole host of intellectual property. You have trademarks, which are words, designs, logos. There's copyright, which could be literary work in, for example, marketing materials or a website. You have patents, which are inventions, etc. But with respect to building a brand, I think the key intellectual property you have to focus on are trademarks. And again, trademarks are words, they're logos, they can be um, designs, slogans, or a combination of all of that. And then if you look at marketing collateral, you'll have your trademark on the collateral, but the written words, the design elements, etc., that's protected by copyright. So I think for this session, we'll focus on trademark and copyright, those two areas of intellectual property law.
Okay, so let's begin then. How does AI fit into building a brand? And what are you seeing companies do?
Well, first of all, AI, like I said before, has completely changed the landscape in terms of building a brand. I would have never thought that AI would be used in this way, but it's amazing how creative businesses are. The problem is, you have to use AI, and I encourage businesses to use AI in order to, you know, keep up with technology and be competitive. However, there are many, many risks that a business or an individual has to be aware of. So, for example, one of the issues is that people don't want to go to lawyers, once for everything. And I don't blame them because, it can get costly. However, and I've had this happen. This is a real story, a sophisticated company. It's not a small company. It's the marketing team of a sophisticated large company. They came to me and they said, "Oh my goodness, Chat GBT has revolutionized how we do business, and we're not going to need lawyers any longer. We put in our requirements to develop a brand. They gave us three options that were fantastic. We also got a slogan related to this brand. As a result of that, we're just picking one and we're going for it." I mean, you have to appreciate, first of all, what generative AI does, right? It essentially ingests information from various sources. So even though it gives you three options of trademarks, that doesn't mean that you can use these marks
Hold that thought,
carte
Stephanie.
blanche.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's episode, we're discussing intellectual property and AI pitfalls and considerations when developing brands and marketing, advertising, collateral. So we were just talking about brands, Stephanie, so please continue.
Sure. So as I was saying, the way AI works is it ingests information from a whole bunch of sources. So you may develop a trademark that you're not familiar with. However, it may be a trademark that a third party is using. And so at the end of the day, even though AI is beneficial and it gives you, three options, you should go and ensure that you can use those options.
So what happened with the company then? So they came to you and they said they had these three options. They were branding, they were elated. But then what happened next?
This was a sad story, and this is where, and I'm not trying to promote going to a lawyer, but at the end of the day, the initial cost outweighs the cost, that you'll have to incur. So they develop these brands. These are global brands. So it's not only Canada. They are using them all over the world, putting them on packaging, putting them on invoices, marketing collateral, etc. They did get a cease and desist letter, not in Canada, but in another jurisdiction, ultimately had to rebrand. And so the amount of costs that they had to incur in relation to that, far, far exceeded what they would have had to pay just to do an initial search.
I think this is really important. It's an important topic to talk about right now because everybody is using AI and maybe even as a crutch. It's easy, it's quick, or whatever. But I want to ask you, how do companies limit risk if they do rely on AI to develop a brand?
There's so many ways to limit risk, and again, I encourage the use of AI, but you have to appreciate that there are these risks, right? So when you develop a trademark, you should go to a lawyer to ensure that that trademark is free to use. I've had clients come to me and say, "Well, we've done searches on the Google search engine. We also did nuance searches, which are company searches, and we were able to get this business name that has our trademark. So, we could use this trademark because we have the business name." But that's not correct. Even though you do own a business name, does not necessarily mean that you own the trademark. And so you have to do these searches. Another thing that I encourage our clients to do, particularly if you have a marketing team or if you're using third parties in order to develop your brands and marketing collateral, is make sure you have an AI policy, first of all, for your employees. And the policy not only should look at, okay, if you develop a brand, the next step is it has to be vetted, either by a lawyer, etc. But also, and this is a really important part that people don't appreciate, when you're putting information into, for example, ChatGPT, you may be breaching the confidentiality of your business and company. So, for example, you develop a new product and that's what you want to brand, right? But you're putting in ChatGPT the elements of the product in order to get this trademark that matches the product. Well, you don't know where this information is going. It's going into the ether, right? And so you could potentially be letting the world know about what is being developed before it goes into the market. So these policies are extremely important within your company to ensure that, you know, ChatGPT is used with certain parameters.
It's amazing as, companies grow and as technology grows, all these new policies are being implemented in different corporations. We never used to have, email policies. We never used to have social media policies. Now we need AI policies as well. Um, it, it's amazing how many different policies different corporations need in order to survive a lot of this and in order to protect themselves as well. When we come back from this next commercial break, I want to talk about the development of marketing and advertising collateral, and I want to pick your brain and see what some of the issues that you're seeing that are popping up right now, because this is all so new, and corporations, some are engaging 100% and some are staying away. So please don't go away. We'll be right back with more AI intelligence. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's episode, we're discussing intellectual property and AI pitfalls. Stephanie, I'm finding this conversation fascinating because it's just so new and there's just so much to absorb. Let's talk about the development of marketing and advertising collateral. What are some of the issues that you're seeing right now?
So, one side of the issue, putting aside AI, is that, the internet is so vast and it's very, very easy for marketing teams or employees to just go and take, for example, an image or part of an image, part of a song, um, some text, and they think that because they're taking, just a part of and not the entire thing, that they're not infringing someone's intellectual property. But that may not be the case. Other individuals, for example, they take in images and they say, oh, they're public domain, they're in the public domain, I can use these images, you know, that's not the case. I have to tell you, there are third parties out there. For example, one of the third parties is called PickRights, that has approached a number of our clients. And just in the past month, three of my clients have received letters from PickRights, and they thought that they were complete scam, and so they ignored them. And what PickRights does is it scans the internet to see if people are using images without consent or licenses, right? They asked for a nominal fee. And so three of my clients decided to ignore the letter and the payment of the fee. Ultimately, they had to pay way more to pick rights in order to make this situation go away. So there are repercussions. I mean, financially, the amount is not a lot, but you don't want to be one of those companies that is known to do and and to take information or images from third party websites.
So then how do you know if something is in the public domain or whether it's safe to use or not?
It's really tough, but at the end of the day, first of all, look to see if there's a watermark. If there is, obviously don't use it. Um, is there anything on the website that grants you a license? If there is, you need to get a license. One of the neatest things right now that I use, and I've, told the marketing teams of my clients to use, it's a reverse image search. So I don't know if you've ever tried this, but you go on an image on the internet, you right click, you get the address and put it in a reverse image search engine, and it will tell you information about that photo, whether there's copyright, whether it's in the public domain, depending on which search engine you use. I find it very, very useful. Um, Other avenues, you can do a copyright search. So the Canadian Intellectual Property Office has a free copyright database. The problem with that is that not everybody registers their copyright. And, essentially you don't need to register your copyright to get copyright protection. So it's not that reliable. Um, but bottom line, I think the safest is A, use stock images where you can get a license or some of them are free. B, develop your own photographs and images. Or, C, get a license or get consent from the owner of the website.
So, similar to brands, I'm assuming businesses are also using generative AI to develop their marketing and advertising collateral. Are you seeing this and are there any issues with it?
This is actually huge because it is very tempting to use AI to write, you know, to essentially generate images, to write script, to populate your website. I am seeing this everywhere. And again, similar to brands and the risks associated with brands, is that it could be taking elements from other third party work, and you could be potentially infringing the intellectual property of third parties. An interesting fact is when you devise an image, for example, and I'll give you a really quick story once I'm done. But you devise an image, and if the image has characteristics that resemble, for example, a celebrity. So let me give you an
Okay,
example.
Stephanie,
Jay Leno.
hold
Yeah,
on one moment. Let's talk about this when we come back from the next commercial break because I'm super interested. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm joined by Stephanie Vaccari, intellectual property lawyer and partner at Baker McKenzie. Stephanie, this whole show has gone by so quickly. So I'm sorry that I had to cut you off, but please continue because this is super interesting that we're talking about using generative AI to develop marketing and advertising collateral.
sure. I'm sorry that I just ramble, but it is
No,
a
you didn't.
it's a very interesting area, even for me. And there's something new every day. And so I was talking about images, and I find this fascinating as well. So if the AI develop like ChatGPT or other generative AI develops an image, right? If it has distinctive characteristics. So for example, a distinctive chin like Jay Leno, or a mole like Cindy Crawford with other similar characteristics to what Cindy has, you could potentially be, breaching personality rights as well by using the likeness of a personality, their image, their voice, etc. So, so there's a whole host of issues that come up. And I don't want to be negative because I do think, like I said before, I think it's important to use it, but I think businesses have to definitely be aware of the risks and you have to do your checks.
And I'm glad that we're having this discussion because this is very new. And a lot of people still don't know how to use it. A lot of people have just jumped right in, but there are a lot of ramifications. What if a business does develop something that may be unique using AI? How can they protect it?
Well, that is definitely a very hot topic right now in Canada. Unfortunately, the law is unclear as to who owns the intellectual property if something is developed by generative AI. In the US, it's a little more clear. It says that if a human doesn't develop it, then the human doesn't own it. But here, it's still very, very unclear. That being said, if you do the trademark searches, the copyright searches, etc., um, perhaps you can try and protect it. And but again, the law is extremely unclear. So it is new, it's new territory, and the law is also uh, hasn't taken a position yet.
This is almost like that conversation when Ellen DeGeneres took that huge photo at the Oscars and there were 11 or 12 people in it. And it was like, who
Yes.
owns the photograph? And clearly she did
Yes.
because she used her cell phone. Before, like, we have a minute 30 left, and I really want to
Okay.
talk about using AI chatbots on websites. So explain it because I know that there have been certain companies that have had problems with this.
And that is also something that you would have never thought could generate issues. So when you have a website and you have those little chat boxes at the side where you ask, questions, etc., depending on the question, that chat box might for example, reference another brand or make a comparison to your company's product with another product. And again, it could be infringing a third-party trademark. It could be making comparative advertising claims, which are unlawful. So it's really, really important when you do negotiate with the developer of your website, et cetera, that you put a provision in that you are not responsible for, and this is simplistic, but you should have a provision that if there is any intellectual property breach, you're not responsible, they're responsible.
Stephanie, thank you so much. This has been a fascinating chat, and I know that it's just going to keep evolving as time goes on. I really appreciate the fact that you shared so many different stories and so many different scenarios. I know that this will help a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of different marketing and advertising departments. Thank you.
No problem.
Stephanie has a reminder for us. She says technology, especially AI, is here to help us. However, don't overlook the legal implications when using it. Although technology makes our lives easier, it has made the legal implications much more complicated. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Thank you all for watching. Bye for now.